Tantor Audio presents Deliverance by C.J. Redwine. Narrated by Renée Chambliss. Chapter 1. Logan. 5 minutes! The soldier guarding Lankenshire's dungeon raps sharply against the bars of the cell I've been in for the past 3 hours. 3 hours since the commander showed up outside Lankenshire with an army and a demand that I be released to him by dawn or he'll attack the city. 3 hours since the Rowansmark trackers inside Lankenshire demanded that I give them the device Willow hid in the wasteland, or they'll call the Cursed One, the Tanine, to destroy Lankenshire. I'm assuming the gray metal boxes I saw mounted to buildings throughout the city while I was being marched from the gate to the dungeon, boxes that match the one Ian pointed out to me in the square, all contain a signal capable of summoning the beast. Maybe capable of summoning more than one beast, if Ian's claim about multiple Tanine roaming the earth is correct. 3 hours since Ian took Rachel and disappeared.
5 minutes until what? Willow asks from the cell beside mine. Until you let us go? Why wait? Open our cells now, and we'll be gone before you can finish locking the doors behind us.
The soldier doesn't look amused. 5 minutes until I escort you to your trial, where the triumvirate will try to figure out a way to appease both the Rowansmark trackers you've managed to upset and the army waiting at our gates.
It'll be fine.
Willow sounds far more confident than I feel.
Logan has a plan, right, Logan?
When I don't answer, Willow's voice sharpens.
Right, Logan?
Do you? The soldier asks softly, his eyes locked on mine. I open my mouth, close it, swallow against the lump of fear that wants to close the back of my throat, and say, I'm working on it. You're working on it? The man steps closer to the iron bars that separate us. You listen to me. This is my city, my home. I have family here, and I don't want to lose them because some refugee from Belbeden brought trouble down on our heads. He shoves his green cloak off his shoulders and points to the row of gold bars that line up neatly over his heart. I'm a ranking officer in Lankenshire's army. I haven't pulled dungeon duty in years, but I'm here today because the triumvirate thinks you merit special treatment. They think you've got a way out of this impossible situation. So don't tell me you're working on it. Figure it out before all of us die. You have 5 minutes. He turns on his heel and stalks toward the entrance of the dungeon, his boots slapping against the stone floor as he goes.
That was dramatic,
Willow says, as she leans against the bars of her cell and looks at me. That was accurate. I close my eyes against the terrible image of Rachel, badly injured, traveling to Rowansmark at the mercy of my murderous brother Ian, while I sit in a dungeon, faced with the impossible task of appeasing both the commander and the trackers, unable to save her. Every worst-case scenario running through my head has come true.
Oh, please, Willow says. Knowing the way your brain works, I'm sure there are at least 5 scenarios worse than this one that you've spent useless hours worrying over. Besides, this isn't that bad.
Not that bad? Willow, the commander is sitting outside the gate with the Carrington army and what's left of Belbeden's guards, and he's promised to attack the city at dawn if I don't give him the device by then. He's a man who keeps his word, and the trackers are going to call the Tanine to destroy Lankenshire the same way Belbeden was destroyed if I don't give the device to them instead. But I can't give the tech to either of them, because if I do, I have nothing to use for ransom when I arrive in Rowansmark to barter for Rachel's life. I rub my eyes and try to think my way around the impossibility of it all. There has to be a way out of this. Too many lives depend on it. Willow's voice is steady.
If you give the tech to the trackers, it's the same as giving it to Rowansmark itself. That should satisfy the ransom for Rachel. Then we just have to deal with the old man and his stupid army. I'm already shaking my head. The second I give up the device, I've lost my leverage over both the commander and Rowansmark. Plus, I doubt Ian's pain atonement vendetta against me will be satisfied by hearing that the device made its way back to Rowansmark. He wants to hurt me, and what better way to hurt me than to hurt Rachel? My throat closes over her name, and I can't push away the fear that pounds through me, taunting me with images of Rachel hurt, bleeding, dead.
So the trackers, the commander, and rescuing Rachel. Those are all of your worst-case scenarios? Willow asks. Because you forgot to mention that my brother, the bastion of self-sacrifice, went missing too. Presumably to track down Rachel, since no one would be crazy enough to kidnap Quinn. Of course, Ian is a lunatic who wouldn't recognize sanity if it slapped him in the face, so there's that.
Thank you for summing that up. I feel so much better about the whole situation now.
I thought we were just listing our problems. Nobody told me I was supposed to provide sympathy.
Willow sounds irritated. The fear pulsing through me makes it impossible to stand still, so I start pacing the small confines of my cell. I don't need sympathy. I need a plan. My people are trapped. The clock is ticking, and I'm stuck inside a Lankenshire prison cell without a weapon or a shred of tech within reach. I'm also stuck in an endless loop of thoughts that have nothing to do with my present circumstances and everything to do with the secrets I recently uncovered about my past. I was born in Rowansmark. Fine, I can adjust to that. I was kidnapped by the commander as a newborn and kept in Bailbeden to coerce my father into turning over his invention for calling and controlling the Tanine once he completed it. I can adjust to that too. But knowing that the woman who called herself my mother was lying to me, knowing that Rachel's father, Jared, brought regular reports about me to my father in Rowansmark and never respected me enough to tell me the truth, and wondering if Oliver, the closest thing I ever had to a father in Bailbeden, knew my secrets all along and only looked after me to protect the commander's investment, I can't adjust to that. I can barely stand to look it in the eye. The foundation on which I built my life is lying in pieces around me, but I can't stop to put it back together. I have a prison break to engineer, an innocent city to protect, a murderer to track down, and 2 power-hungry leaders who need to be stopped. Personal reflection will have to wait.
I wouldn't say that we don't have any weapons, Willow says.
I jerk to a stop and whip my head toward Willow's cell. By leaning against my cell door, I can just see her. She's crouched against the front corner of her cell, her back pressing against the iron bars that lock her in. With deft movements, she unties the leather strap that binds her long, dark braid and slowly pulls it free. My eyes widen. A length of thin silver wire is attached to the end of the strap and is woven into her braid. She holds her braid secure and tugs until nearly half a yard of wire slides out of her hair and lies in her lap. Brilliant, I breathe.
Agreed.
Willow coils the wire around her left wrist and secures the loose end against the leather tie. It looks like she's wearing a simple silver bracelet, but I have no trouble imagining the kind of havoc Willow can wreak with that length of wire. Picking locks, jabbing eyes, slitting throats. Have I told you recently that I'm grateful you and Quinn decided to stay with our group instead of trying to find another tree village to join? I don't know what I'd do without you. Willow flashes me a smug little smile, and I make myself smile back. But inside, my desperation is growing. One weapon alone won't help us fix this. I need tech, supplies, people, a plan.
and I don't have a single workable idea. The soldier picks up 2 lengths of chain and strides down the corridor toward our cells. Our 5 minutes are up.
If you're going to make a plan, you'd better think fast, Willow says, as the soldier stops before my cell, a heavy iron key in his hand.
I'm trying. I run through my options as the man opens my door, wraps chains around my wrists, and then puts a matching set on Willow while she gives him a look that would drop a lesser man to his knees. He doesn't give the silver bracelet on her wrist a second glance. Best case scenario, I think of a way out of this before we reach the courtroom and no one dies. Worst case scenario, everything else. My stomach cramps as Willow and I, flanked by another pair of Lankenshire soldiers, follow the man through the long stone hallways that lead from the dungeon to the courtroom. Short of cutting myself and the device in half and giving a piece to both Rowansmark and the commander, I can't think of a single way to keep this city and the Baelbodin survivors who followed me across the wasteland, survivors who are family to me now, safe.
What's the plan?
Willow whispers as we turn a corner and begin climbing a set of steep steps carved into the stone. The torches that bracket the stairway are lit, their golden light gleaming against her dark hair as she looks at me.
You don't have one, do you?
I shake my head and force myself to think smarter, faster. Rowansmark needs to believe that Lankenshire is turning me over to them, or they'll use the beacons. The commander needs to believe that I'll be in his custody by dawn, or he'll attack the city. And I need to be out in the wasteland, free of them both, so that I can track down Rachel and Quinn.
Do you have a plan yet?
Willow asks as we leave the stairs behind and enter a spacious corridor with white marble floors that sparkle beneath bronze gas lamps. A bank of wide windows to the right lets in the brilliant light of the setting sun. Rachel has been missing for 3 hours now. 3 hours is a decent head start in the wasteland, but I know I can catch up. I will catch up.
Logan!
Willow shakes her bound hands in front of my face, the iron chain links slapping together harshly. When I meet her eyes, she leans close and says through gritted teeth,
"We're about to walk into that courtroom. What is the plan?"
Panic shoots through my stomach and somehow lands in my chest, where it feels like a vice is slowly crushing me. I don't have a plan. I don't have a single viable scenario. All I have is desperation and the terrible fear that I'm about to fail everyone I love. The soldier leading us stops abruptly and motions to a narrow door situated between 2 bronze gas lamps. "You two wait in here until it's time for the trial to start." His eyes meet mine, and he lowers his voice. "And I certainly hope that in that time since you told me you were working on it, you've come up with something, because in about 2 minutes, you're going to need to explain it to the one person who can make it happen." Without another word, he motions us inside the cramped little box of a room, leaves the pair of Lankenshire soldiers to stand guard outside the door, and locks us in. The one person who can make it happen. "We must be meeting with Clarissa before the trial starts," I say. Clarissa Vaughan, leader of Lancashire's triumvirate, and quite possibly the most formidable woman I've ever met. Enduring the soldier's frustration at my lack of a plan will be nothing compared to facing her. Willow paces the room, scanning the plain white walls and the knotted pine ceiling like she thinks she can find a secret exit that will dump us straight into the wasteland. I'm scanning the walls too, for all the good it will do me. We need a plan, a real one, and I've got no ideas and no more time to figure it out. As if she can read my mind, Willow asks, "Still got nothing?" I meet her eyes for a second, letting her see the sheer desperation churning through me, and then turn to the door. I have to tell Clarissa something. Maybe if I look at this from a different angle, if I examine the ways we can neutralize the beacons to take the teeth out of the tracker's threats, if I talk to Coleman Pritchard, head of Lancashire Security, about methods to defend the city against the commander. Who am I kidding? I know nothing about defending a city against an army, and I can't tell Clarissa how to neutralize the Rowansmark beacons without seeing one for myself. And even then, what if I can't figure it out? What if...
Hey!
Willow smacks my shoulder lightly.
Stop disappearing into your head and listen. I know what to do.
I blink and stare at her. You do?
Don't act so surprised. I just figured the fastest way to get out of here and into the wasteland is to remove the obstacles in our way. We'll start with the trackers and then move on to the army.
You want to take out an entire contingent of Rowansmark trackers?
I don't see why not.
And then go after an army?
Don't be an idiot. Not the whole army, just the leader. Cut off the head, and the rest of the body just sort of flops around uselessly.
You want the two of us, who are currently weaponless. I pause as she wriggles her wrist at me. The silver wire she took from her braid shimmers. Fine, you want the two of us who are mostly weaponless, and who are chained up like criminals, to take out a group of Rowansmark trackers. What are we supposed to use against them? We need a bigger weapon than chains and attitude.
That's a very negative way to look at this.
A bigger weapon than chains and attitude. I stare at Willow, but I don't see her. I finally see possibilities, scenarios, plans. The pain in my stomach eases. We can't kill all of the Rowansmark trackers, I say.
Speak for yourself.
She glares at me. We need to leave a few alive to testify that Lankenshire had nothing to do with our escape in case other trackers come to the city, I say slowly, as a risk-filled plan for how we can break out of prison without endangering either Lankenshire or the Balebeden survivors takes shape inside my head.
And how are we going to escape?
I have a plan. I can't believe what I'm about to suggest. It's stupid and bold and could fail in 100 ways before we even get 15 yards. She grins.
You cover stupid. I'll take care of bold. Now, what's the plan?
We're going to get the commander to break us out of prison. Chapter 2. Logan. The air inside the little room grows stale while I pace the floor, talking through the details of the riskiest plan I've ever conceived, and waiting for Clarissa Vaughn to tell me I'm crazy and that I've just cost her people their lives. When I've finished, I meet Clarissa's gaze. Her expression tells me nothing. Beside her stands a girl who looks like a younger version of her, right down to the proud tilt of her chin and the air of power wrapping around her like she was born to it. Clarissa introduced her as Cassidy when they arrived. Cassidy's shoulders are ramrod straight beneath her white tunic and dark green cloak. A black scarf is pinned to the right shoulder of her cloak by a gold medallion with a scale etched onto its surface. Books lie on one side of the scale. A dragon's head lies on the other. The books weigh more. She's a courier for Lankenshire, an official emissary charged with handling state business with other city-states. For a moment, I imagined that if Rachel had been born in Lankenshire instead of Balebeden, she might have been an emissary for a city-state that valued her brains and her skill without worrying about her gender. Or she might be in the army, or eventually in the triumvirate. A small part of me wishes that had been her path. The rest of me holds fast to the girl with the fiery hair who defended me when schoolboys caught me scrounging for food in a trash heap, who challenged my ideas and my sparring skills, who kissed me like I was the air she desperately needed to breathe. Clarissa and Cassidy are still watching me in silence, and I clear my throat. That's it, I say. That's the plan. Let me get this straight, Clarissa says. You want me to send an emissary to the army outside my gates. Tell the commander that you will give him the device in exchange for freeing you from our dungeon, and then have that emissary lead him to the dungeon through the underground tunnels at midnight to break you out of prison. Yes. I try to sound like the prospect doesn't fill me with dread. In the meantime, you're going to plead guilty at your trial, and you expect me to hand you over to the Rowansmark trackers while somehow still keeping you in our custody until the commander can come for you. Clarissa's eyes narrow as she studies me. I resist the urge to break eye contact with her and say, Yes, let the trackers have control of the dungeon, but keep them from leaving until dawn by telling them you have to sort out last-minute details like, I don't know, having me sign a confession to send to the commander so that he knows to take up his cause against me with James Rowan. Think of something so that when the commander comes for me, and he will, the Rowansmark trackers won't suspect that you were involved. It's not a bad plan, Willow says, as she leans against the wall closest to the door. It's a terrible plan, Cassidy says, her dark eyes flashing. We're deceiving the people who can press a button and call the Tanine to destroy us, while simultaneously allowing the army who is threatening our city to access our secret tunnel system. What part of that sounds like a good idea to you? The part where you realize it's the only plan you've got, Willow shoots back, somehow managing to look menacing despite the chains that bind her wrists. This afternoon, before the trackers attacked you and the army surrounded my city, you told me you could build a replica of Rowansmark's tech in exchange for me offering asylum to your people. Clarissa's voice cuts through the room like a knife, silencing both Cassidy and Willow. I hold her gaze. I did, but I won't have time now. You'll have until midnight, she says. It's not just time. I need supplies. 16-gauge braided copper wire, several high-voltage batteries, thin sheets of silver, and a transmitter capable of sending a signal for at least 500 yards. And I'd need to be able to work without having trackers looking over my shoulder, which will be difficult given the fact that after the trial, I'll be in their custody. I meet Clarissa's gaze. I'm sorry. I meant to keep my word. The best I can do now is deflect Rowansmark's suspicion so that they have no reason to call the Tanine. I'm not interested in apologies. She waves her hand through the air, a gesture at once regal and commanding. I'm interested in results. Your plan might work, but it's hardly a guarantee of safety for my people or yours. I realize that. I don't know how to... Cassidy, the beacon, please? Seeing my raised brows, Clarissa says, I had one removed from one of the western outposts since the trackers are distracted by your presence in the dungeon and by the commander outside the gate. It isn't likely to be missed, but I want to put it back in place as quickly as possible. Cassidy pulls a dark gray metallic box from the inside of her cloak and hands it to Clarissa. The beacon is about 2 handspans wide and as thick as the sole of my boot. When Clarissa pops the back off, revealing the powerful tech inside, I run my fingers over the intricate silver mechanisms and then examine a transmitter that's twice as powerful as the one inside the device Willow hid in the wasteland. I'm surprised and impressed at the difference between the two. This piece of tech makes the device look like a harmless toy. I have to wonder why Rowansmark is expending so much effort to recover something so inferior to the tech they now possess. Maybe it really is a matter of restoring honor, as Ian claimed. Or maybe James Rowan knows the only way he can gain control over the rest of the city-states is by keeping them from copying and then improving on his tech. That would also explain why my father's pain atonement sentence alone wasn't enough to rectify the crime of letting tech like this out of Rowansmark hands. I'm guessing, from James Rowan's perspective, Ian's mission has nothing to do with honor and everything to do with removing a threat to Rowansmark's plan to subjugate the rest of the city-states.
Can you use any of these parts to make something we can use to protect ourselves? Clarissa asks.
The transmitter may be more powerful, but unlike the device's ability to send the creature in any direction, this one has only 2 frequencies, one to call the beast and one to keep it away. I smile grimly as I realize what this means. I can keep my promise. I can keep Lankenshire safe. I can do better than that. I tap the transmitter. This has 2 active components. One component generates an ultrasonic sound wave, and the other produces an infrasonic wave. The infrasonic, the sound set low enough to cause the ground to rumble if there's enough power behind the transmitter, calls the Tanine. If you disable the infrasonic in each of these beacons, the trackers won't be able to destroy your city unless one of them has the tech skills it takes to rebuild a transmitter and set it to an exact frequency.
And if one of them does know how to fix it? Clarissa asks.
I reach inside the beacon and gently disengage the transmitter from its position. I assume you or one of the other members of the triumvirate has a necklace set to a sonic frequency that repels the beasts, right? From beneath her tunic, Clarissa pulls a flat disc hanging on a thin silver chain. Good. Attach it to the transmitter like this. I show her how to splice the transmitter's wire onto one inside the tech she wears. Now, it will amplify your ultrasonic emission, the sonic frequency that repels the Tanine, by at least 300%. She tucks the necklace and the transmitters away and says, "Do we need to remove the transmitters from every beacon to disable them?" I shake my head and show them how to disable the infrasonic component inside the tech. Clarissa taps 3 times on the door and then studies me while Cassidy hides the now useless beacon inside her cloak again. "You upheld your end of the bargain. I'll do the same. I will send an emissary to the commander with the terms of your deal, and your people will be offered asylum within our city as long as they agree to be governed by our laws." Drake is leader in my place. Something tight wraps itself around my chest as I realize I'm leaving the rest of the survivors behind, and I might not be coming back. I can't guarantee that I'll survive my encounter with the commander, much less my attempts to rescue Rachel and bring down Rowansmark. One of the soldiers guarding the room's entrance taps once before opening the door. "All clear, ma'am." Clarissa nods, but makes no move to leave the room. Instead, she continues to watch me. "What will you do?" she asks. "Once you give the device to the commander, provided you survive that encounter, what will you do next?" I meet her gaze. "I'm going to Rowansmark." The tiny creases around her eyes deepen. "If voluntarily giving yourself over to the commander isn't suicide, heading to Rowansmark certainly is. Why not just go to the other city-states and show them how to disable the beacons?" "Because Ian, the tracker who was disguised as one of us, took my..." The words to describe what Rachel is to me won't come. "He took Rachel, and he's going to kill her if I don't show up at Rowansmark with the device to ransom her back." "The device you're supposed to give to the commander?" Clarissa frowns. "I don't want him to blame me for a double-cross, Logan." "He'll be dead before he has a chance to blame anyone for anything," Willow says, as the soldier in the hall pokes his head in again. "Ma'am, the proceedings are ready to start. Hallway remains clear of trackers." "Thank you, Paul." Clarissa leans closer to me. "I hope your plan for ransoming Rachel is stronger than your plan for getting out of Lankenshire,
because you're going to need a miracle to survive Rowansmark. I understand that it's a trap, but... Yes, a death...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?